Hello, everybody. This is Jose Stevens from the Power Path, and I'm going to talk about three things today. I want to talk a little bit about pilgrimage, and then I'll talk a little bit about doing solos in nature. And I want to mention the full moon eclipse, which is taking place in about 9 minutes or so. So maybe I'll begin with that just because that's coming up here and I might be talking at the time that it appears. So this eclipse is the opening of a window of time that leads up to the solar eclipse. And it's a very, very powerful, these are two very, very powerful eclipses. And the time in between is extremely important. And this is the opening of that window of time. The theme for this time frame is reevaluation and resetting. We have an opportunity to reset ourselves, to check in and see what we'd like to shift or transform in ourselves, and hold that as an intention. And that's very important during this time frame. And it's also a time of going deep into our subconscious, deep into our psyches, and making some fundamental changes at the deepest levels so that when we emerge, we can be coming more from our essence and less from our, say, false personality or ego. So this is a tremendous opportunity. And while it may be rough for some people because going deep is never particularly easy, it can also have tremendous results. So keep that in mind here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about pilgrimage. And recently, Lena and I did a talk on pilgrimage for the Shift Network. And there were a number of talks given by various experts in shamanism. And when all was said and done, ours was received very, very well. And there's still an opportunity to hear that talk. You can tie in to a link to the Shift Network. Let's see, it's up here somewhere. ShamanismSummit.com. ShamanismSummit.com. Okay, it's in the comments. And eventually it'll be on our site, thepowerpath.com, which I encourage you to go visit. And if you want to wait, you can see it there later. Now, I'm not going to repeat what we talked about in that particular lecture here, but it inspired us, giving that talk inspired us to once again go on pilgrimage. So Elena and I took off for the Colorado Rockies. And we did a number of mountains. We hiked a number of mountains, but we concluded with Ute Peak. And that was our specific pilgrimage. Now, you might ask, what's the difference between just a hike up a mountain and a pilgrimage? Well, they are different. The mountain might have wonderful views, but it may not have any particular sacred qualities. It might not be a particular destination, shamanically speaking. It might just be beautiful. That's wonderful. But when you're doing a pilgrimage, you're hiking to a sacred place or walking to a sacred place. And in this case, Ute Peak is one of the 4 sacred mountains to the Native American tribes that live in the Southwest. It's considered very sacred, very powerful, not to be sort of fooled with or overlooked. It's an ancient volcano which exists right near the Colorado border. It's actually in New Mexico, but right near the Colorado border, right on the line there. And it stands alone. Like I said, it's an ancient volcano, and it's very steep. It's up above 10,000 feet. And you start the walk at about, I shouldn't say the walk, I should say the climb at about 7,500 feet. And there's dirt roads that lead you to the base. no particular trails that you can find, some animal trails. And so most of it's bushwhacking and quite steep. You're climbing about 2,500 feet. It took us about 5.5 hours to go up and back. And there's no easy way to find the peak since it's a volcano, it's surrounded on top. So we spent quite a bit of time looking for the highest point and said some prayers there, left some offerings. You always want to bring offerings with you. It could be very simple offerings. It could be like even candy, or it could be fruit, or it could be some tobacco or whatever, simple things. But it's the honoring of the mountain that counts. We said some very, very powerful prayers up there, smoked some tobacco, and it was a fabulous and powerful pilgrimage. And by the time we got back, we had a thunderstorm, and we had rain and heavy, heavy winds. And by the time we got back, we were quite complete with the pilgrimage and understandably tired. So that was a wonderful experience, and I highly encourage you to go on pilgrimage somewhere in your vicinity. But if you're in the New Mexico area and you want to do a really good mountain pilgrimage, then that would be one that you could consider. So I'm going to switch now and talk a little bit about nature solos. Now, nature solos are in contrast to vision quests that are done by Native American tribes. And vision quests are very rigorous, and they're designed for younger people. They're designed for people young in their lives who are seeking a vision to show them what they should do with their lives. And they're, like I said, quite rigorous, often 3 to 4 days and nights with no food, no water, and no sleep. Nothing but a blanket, often naked, but with a blanket. So they're designed for younger people, although sometimes older people do them. Nature solos are somewhat different. They're time that you can spend alone in nature in a beautiful, inspiring place. It can be either in a forest, or it can be in a meadow, or it can be on the edge of a cliff, or it can be on a mountaintop. And all of these environments we have at our ranch at Eagle Bear, just outside of Las Vegas, New Mexico. And they're an opportunity to just be with spirit and do some praying and do some singing and do some self-reflecting and enjoying the peace and the quiet that comes with being alone and not having to answer any phones or listen to any news or anything like that. It's a rare delight. And we do them 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. Very common, we do 72 hours, 3 days and 3 nights. But they're more gentle. People can bring a little tent, and they can bring a sleeping bag and a pad. And nothing else, no other distractions. They can bring a little food if they're hypoglycemic, or they have some physical condition that makes it important for them to have something light to eat. And we do allow water because it's frequently very warm. And we don't want people getting dehydrated. So it's a different animal. It's not a Vision Quest light. It's just different. And we have people that repeat yearly. They come back year after year because they find it so valuable and so helpful that they want to spend more time out there. Sometimes people are disappointed when the time comes and the solo is over. They feel like, hey, I just got started here. I don't want to go back. I want to stay out here for a couple more days. Of course, that's not possible because of arrangements, but then they can come for a longer solo. And I've done a couple of week-long solos, 7 days and 7 nights that were absolutely fabulous, and I wouldn't trade them for the world. And they were extremely powerful. Now, solos can be life-transforming. They can be, they're sacred time. When you begin a solo, you step into non-ordinary reality. And so all your time you spend out there is sacred time. It can be. And yes, there are Sometimes there are challenges to overcome. There's fear of being out alone in nature. Sometimes people are afraid of wild animals. And in the many, many years that we've done solos out in Eagle Bear, there's been sightings of bear and elk and even a couple of mountain lion a couple times. But those are very, very privileged people that manage to see animals because they're very reclusive. They tend not to come out. And if you do see them, you're very fortunate and very lucky. And it's not like they're out hunting for you. And so it's a real opportunity to spend time. I'm getting a little message here that it's full moon right now, this very moment. So we'll stop just for a moment here and tune into the moon and say hello and enjoy that window of quiet stillness. The moon is full. And we thank you, moon. We bless you. We thank you for opening this wonderful window of opportunity for us until the solar eclipse. We ask you to teach us, and we ask you to bestow your benefits upon us. Let us be receptive to you. Aho. Okay, so we're talking about nature solos. Now, one of the things I want to point out is that if you study the lives of great saints of all traditions, doesn't matter, Hindu, Tibetan, Buddhist, Christian, or what have you, we find that great saints in every tradition have spent a great deal of time alone in nature, doing nature solos. Buddha spent, Siddhartha Gautama spent many days and many nights under the Bodhi tree to become enlightened. Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, probably more than once. We don't know, but more likely he spent quite a bit of time in solo, in private meditation, and always in places in nature, in beautiful places. In the shamanic tradition, shamans will often spend several days, several nights in a cave, on a mountaintop, next to a waterfall, on the ocean beach where waves are coming in over and over. Powerful places of enormous energy and power to enhance chi, to build chi, and to build more energy and vitality and strength and health. So when we go out on solo, which hardly anybody does anymore, unfortunately, people do go camping and they go out to the woods, and sometimes even people like to go solo backpacking. It's a little different from doing it very specifically to go out, not move anywhere else, just be in one place with no distractions, with the sole purpose of being with spirit, with being in nature, and being by yourself. It's an unusual thing, and yet extremely transformative. And that's why great saints have always done it, because they found enormous benefits in doing so. And it's a good idea. I know I look at the lives of great saints as role models. As you know, I see the benefits in their lives. I see that it led to enlightenment for many of them. And so why would I do something different? Why not follow in their footsteps, especially something that feels as good as being out in nature? So I highly recommend doing solo time. And we have one coming up at Eagle Bear in September. On first day is August 31st. And it goes to it's on Labor Day weekend. So it's convenient in terms of taking some time off. And it goes to the 5th, I believe. If you're interested in doing a solo or doing this particular one, you can simply contact our office at admin@thepowerpath.com, or the link to that is in the comments, so you can look there. I want to leave some time here for questions and answers on either pilgrimage or nature solos or what have you, whatever comes up. So there's a question on should I fast? Well, that's completely an individual question. Some people, like I mentioned, have physical conditions that make it, and especially people that are a little bit older in age, over 50, 60. We've had people out on solos into their 80s. And sometimes they have special needs. They shouldn't fast. They shouldn't go without any food at all for 3 days and 3 nights. So, and certainly water. We do provide water on our solos. And, but if somebody feels like maybe they're really healthy and strong and they want the experience of going without food, they can certainly do that. It's individually tailored. You can leave your tent behind. You can leave your sleeping bag behind. You can leave food behind. Although we usually recommend, since we have summer monsoons and we have sometimes rainstorms and that sort of thing, we actually do recommend taking a little pup tent. Are there animals? Yes, of course. The woods are full of animals. There are skunks, there are squirrels, there are deer, there are elk, there are porcupine in the fall. There are no rattlesnakes on our land. There are gopher snakes and smaller garter snakes. There are numerous birds, and yes, there's the occasional mountain lion, and there are some black bears that live in the vicinity. Like I said, people hardly ever see them, and you're blessed if you do. So the animals, actually the only animals that pose a problem for most people on solo are chipmunks, and on occasion like a mouse or something that will try to get in the tent to eat some food, so it has to be well contained. And those are the biggest predators around, because rodents like, a little extra food here and there. So that's all we have time for today. I hope this has been useful in terms of just touching a little bit on the value and power of pilgrimage and the value and power of doing nature solos, and also our current full moon eclipse leading to the solar eclipse a little later on. We have a webinar. PowerPath has a webinar tomorrow with Lena and Anna, and it's about boundaries and protection. Boundaries and protection. And it should be very, very good. As you know, Lena and Anna are extremely informative. They always give excellent information, and you can learn a lot from that webinar. All right. Thank you for listening. It's been enjoyable talking to you. Bye-bye.